Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jeff Abraham. Jeff, excited to have you on the show.
Pleased to be here.
Yes, super excited to have you on and talk about all the awesome things that you're doing. And of course, before we jumped into the interview, I want to read a little bit more about Jeff so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Jeff is the CEO of Absorption Pharmaceuticals, the company behind the leading PE spray for men, Promescent. Jeff's mission is to help anyone seeking to better their love life with safe, proven solutions that work and are backed by science. The taboo nature of topics surrounding sex, especially men's sexual health, paired with the business credentials and personality of Jeff, has led to some of the highest downloaded, shared, or engaged episodes for the shows that Jeff has been a guest host on. So super excited to have Jeff on the show and all the awesome things that he's doing. I was listening to one of the interviews. I think he said he always dreamed of being a businessman, and having worked in the steel mill, if I understand correctly, he shows, and I think that shows a lot of great work ethic that Jeff has. And I wanted to call him the Michael Jordan of the industry because I think he came out of retirement from the semiconductor business and came back in, and you can find their brands literally in big brands like Target, Walmart, GNC. So him and his team are doing some really awesome things. Excited to have you here, Jeff. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I'm really happy to be here. I've done some research on your podcast, and I know you have some really dedicated listeners and a very focused audience. And this is our outreach. As a small company, we're never going to go head to head with Pfizer or Reckitt Benckiser or Trojan and have billion-dollar, ad budgets. What we like to do is connect with people like yourself who have dedicated listeners and really find your podcast credible. And a long form like this allows us, instead of doing a 30-second spot where it's like, oh, we're the best, everyone goes, I hear that from everybody, to kind of expound a little bit and tell you the science behind what we do, to tell you about our medical board and our urologists. So the pleasure is all mine, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm super excited to get the opportunity to hear more about, everything that you all have been doing. But I know I touched on it a little bit. I wanted to rewind the clock, hear a little bit more on how you got started with all the awesome things you're doing. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story?
Yeah, like you said, I was born and raised and worked at a steel mill when I was in high school and college. And I tell people that was my first inkling that wasn't the life for me. I decided that, I was going to not work with my hands and my back, and I'd work more with my brain. When you made the comment about, I always dreamed about being a businessman, I was very practical. I was an okay athlete, but I looked in the mirror and went, I don't think modeling or, being People Magazine Sexiest Man of the Year is in my future. Even though I was a reasonable athlete, I looked at the NBA, I looked at the NFL, I looked at the NHL. I said, those guys don't look like me. You know what I mean? I'm not 6'4" and 240 pounds and chiseled. I don't think that's it. So I was very realistic, where others were dreaming about scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl and, being on the cover of People Magazine. I was dreaming about having my own business from 8 years, 10 years old on. I was very practical. So I got out of college and I worked for two different companies, one for about 3 years, one for about 4.5 years. And, it's funny because when you're young, you always think that to someone to be a CEO, they have to be Harvard educated with a PhD and they're brilliant. My first couple jobs, it became apparent to me that I was smarter than my boss, and I was making this 2% commission. I brought in, $2 million in new business a year, and I got a 40 grand bonus. I go, that's 2%, that's not exactly. And I started thinking to myself, what if I owned a company? What if I was in charge, And all of a sudden, if I brought in $2 million worth of business, that was my 2 million. I was like, I like that equation better. So when I was 31 years old, I had become a single father, and I was traveling for my job all over the place. And I just said, it's time. I want to branch out. I want to start my own business. And I had been a regional manager in the semiconductor industry. Semiconductors are integrated circuits, computer chips. And I saw a niche that wasn't being filled, to have a recruiting service for finding these high-tech engineers. So I started my company, and it went insane within 3 years. I mean, it beyond my wildest expectations. And I just found that finding a business that had high margins, that really and truly was exciting and fast paced, fit my lifestyle very well. I've always been the type of person, I tell people I love to create rather than sustain. If I have a business that I brought up and it starts doing 40, 50 million a year, and you've reached pretty much the cap of where you're at. And the goal becomes, well, let's see if we can get 2% more on margins next year. That's not my thing. My thing is taking a concept, taking an idea, and making it a business. Once it's a mature, solid business, it's doing 40, 50 million a year, and the goal becomes eke out a little more profitability. I hand it off to a number cruncher, a bean counter. That's not my thing. I love the idea that this is a concept. Is it actually a business? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And let me show you. Let me make it a business. But once it becomes mature and it's solid, and the dynamic switches from growing and let's really, energize this thing to let's refine it and get an extra 2%. That's when the CPAs come in. That's your baby now. That's not mine. I love the idea where someone says that can't be done. I go, oh yeah, let me show you. Not only can it be done, it will be done. And I came out of retirement, to run this business. I had retired at 53. I sold my first business and decided I was going to kick back and just enjoy life. And my next door neighbor happened to be a urologist and also my best friend and my doctor. And I went in to see him for my yearly physical. And he's like, hey, I really respect your business acumen, because I grew up really poor. Wonderful family, little coal mining town in Pennsylvania. But I moved to California in 1982 with 2 suitcases and $500, nothing. And I had built a pretty impressive resume and things went well. And he's like, oh, I really need your help. And I said, what is it? What are you doing? He said, well, I developed a cure for PE. I said, you developed a cure for physical education? Because PE to me, when I was in high school and college, it was like, that was phys ed, And he goes, no. He goes, premature ejaculation. I go, oh, like ED is right. Yeah. So I did a quick cursory study and I found out that market was bigger than ED. And I knew ED was billions of dollars. I went, oh my God. I'm like, does this stuff work? He's like, yeah. I said, give me a sample. Does it have a recreational component to it? He goes, oh yeah. So I tried it. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff is dynamite, So I came out of retirement, and the goal was I'll come out of retirement for a year or two, get this thing up and running. Okay. 11 years later, here we are expanding. Not only do we have, the products for premature ejaculation, we have vibrators and lubes and products for erectile dysfunction and, nitric oxide supplements for blood flow, and the company's thriving and growing. And like you said, we're in Target, we're in Walmart, we're the number one best-selling product on Amazon for sexual enhancers. So I'm extremely proud of the work that we've done. But I got to be honest with you, the business aspect is one thing, okay? And that's certainly gratifying. But the emails we get from some of the people we deal with that say, I literally had become asexual. I was so embarrassed. I was frustrated. I was so tired of this cure. I wish I was kidding when I tell you this, but if you do a cursory search for premature ejaculation cures and everything, you'll find shark fin, bear claw extract, bull testicle derivative. I'm like, who's buying this stuff? There's so much snake oil and nonsense out there. And it's gratifying when someone says, this re-energized my life. My wife and I were still married, but we weren't intimate anymore. Once a year, on her birthday or whatever, it wasn't. And now, we feel like we're back in our 20s and 30s. That gives you a lot of satisfaction. Because I always tell people that we spend so much money on going to the gym, wardrobe, hairstyle, just, oh my God, I got to look the best. I got to, smell the best. I got to, be buffed, and I got to do this to attract someone from the opposite sex. Why is it taboo, and why do people get uncomfortable about spending money keeping the person? Okay. Attract them is one thing. The whole goal isn't to attract someone. It's to have a long-term committed, supposedly relationship. And for whatever reason, even though it's 2023, there's still a stigma about talking about sex. And I tell people this all the time. Women are much more open. When we started developing women's products as well, I said, I did this backwards. I should have went into the women's area first, because if a woman finds something that either A, gives her more orgasms or gives her more intense orgasm, she's on Pinterest, she's on Reddit, she's on Facebook, she's calling every friend, she's texting. I swear to God, it's like, if I told our marketing team, if we can get one or two women in every city, they'll take it from there. They'll spread the word. If a guy finds something that he feels makes him better in bed, the first thing he does is want to make sure no one else has it. Every
Right.
guy wants to be the biggest, brightest rooster in the hen house, impregnating every hen. He looks at every other guy as his competition, you know? So I'm like, it's hard with men. We got to reach each one individually. Women, you just get it out there. They'll take care of it for you and tell all of your friends. So
Yeah.
I've really learned a lot because not having been in a consumer business, being in a high tech semi is totally different than this. So as a CEO of both companies, I can tell you it was a learning curve. You know, everything in my prior job was all based on metrics. It was all based on science. This is a lot of nuance and how do people feel and how can you bring it up without making someone feel self-conscious or making them feel inferior, you know? So it's been a real journey, and it's taught me that there's no secret sauce that works in every single industry, that you have to evaluate as a CEO each company and say, what is it that's going to drive this one? But there are some commonalities, and those commonalities are ethical, hard work, and communication. No matter what industry you're in, those are essential. You got to be ethical. If people can't trust you, they're not going to buy from you in any circumstance. If you're not hardworking, your competition will have a leg up on you. If you don't communicate, you're not going to know, what do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? So there's three things that you literally have in common no matter what industry you're in. And those are the three things. But then you have to look at your product, the people you're serving, and then tailor your approach to whatever industry you're in. If I went in as the CEO of this company and basically tailored it just like I did when I had a semiconductor engineering company, you wouldn't be interviewing me today. I'd be still retired, kick back and go, man, that was a colossal failure. So I used the same basic mindset of ethical behavior, you know, communication, you know, hard work, but then tailored it to an audience that is totally different. It's a very sensitive subject.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate you sharing. That's definitely a lot different than the Michael Jordan comeback story that, I compared you to. So I might have to take that part out. But I think it's so impactful that you have that awareness around both of the companies and how you can have those foundational elements, but at the same time make sure that you are able to do it in a unique way and implement that secret sauce so that you can make that impact in this in the same way, the same amount of impact it sounds like, but in a different way that you're executing on
100%. But always feel free to compare me to Michael Jordan in any concept that you want to, in any sphere. You know, I'm a huge sports fan and I love
it.
basketball. And I always see these debates about Kobe and,
Mhm.
you know, LeBron and Michael Jordan. And to me, it just comes back to 6 out of 6, 6 finals appearances,
Yeah.
6 championships. And literally, it was 6 out of 6. There were 2 years where he retired in between. And I
Mhm.
believe that if he didn't, it would have been 8 out of 8. Okay.
Right.
Enough said. I don't care about how many points you scored. I don't care about, you know, whatever. To me, Michael Jordan is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Okay. He's the man. And so
Hey.
you can compare me when you said, well, that's not valid. No, please compare me in any way, shape, or form, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 6
Bank
out of 6.
account, history. He's just a
Yeah.
good dude. And he's the ultimate to me.
Yeah, no, you won't get any arguments out of me. I'm definitely a Michael Jordan is the GOAT fan as well too, and a proponent of that. And I think anything else, doesn't look at the facts. But I won't say get off my lawn or anything, but that's just coming from my
That's how
perspective.
that's when, because at my age, when I say that, especially now, I had lived in Southern Cal for 30 years before I moved to Summerlin, Nevada. People are like, get off my lawn with your Michael Jordan thing. I said, trust me, I love Kobe. I love LeBron. Okay.
Yeah,
You can put them on your top three of Mount Rushmore,
yeah,
but don't tell me that anyone compares to that dude. He
yeah.
was the guy, you
He
know?
was different. He was different.
Yeah.
He was the definition of excellence. It's so funny that when you were talking about how everybody, when you were growing up, was wanting to be in the NFL, NBA, or whatever. I was that kid, and I say I was looking at the NBA, but the NBA wasn't looking back at me. I also didn't have the genes or
Yeah,
anything
that's
like
right.
that.
That's just the
So,
way that I look at Victoria's Secret supermodels. They ain't looking
yeah.
back at me, but I still appreciate it. I still get the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, look through and go, wow, wouldn't that be nice, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So it was a whole different ball game, but it sounds like you have a really good kind of pulse on yourself, where you are, what you can do, and how to adjust and change. I feel like that's something that I don't know if that does, you feel like has kind of done really well for you over the years, and being able to kind of get that pulse of like, these are my superpowers, these are the things that I could do. I can lean more into this. I'm not going to do that. And I know this isn't my place. When you mentioned like working in the steel mills, and you seem like you're able to get that realization over, this is what I should do, this is what excites me, this is what I need to lean more into.
Absolutely. As a CEO, I say this to people, because I go to seminars and I go to all kinds of different things and I do a lot of podcasts and stuff. And I tell people, check your ego at the door.
Hmm.
My biggest strength is knowing my weaknesses, okay, and augmenting those. I've seen so many people fail in the past because they can't admit their weaknesses and they will continue to plow ahead in an area that they're not proficient in. I take pride in the fact when I had my semiconductor engineering business, because I was surrounded by PhDs and people with masters in, electrical engineering. I was proud of the fact that I was the least intelligent person in my company in terms of academics.
Hmm.
Okay. But let me tell you something. I was the one cashing the checks. And I look at myself as a CEO, and you can probably identify with this analogy. I look at myself as an orchestra conductor.
Hmm.
If you ask me to play guitar, I'm not a good guitar player. You ask me to be drums, but I can go find the best drummer, the best guitar player. I can go find the best bass player. I can go find a great saxophone player, and it's me that makes the music. Each one is really good in what they do, but they don't have the vision to put an entire song together. They're great on the saxophone, but it takes somebody who may not be the greatest sax player, might not be the greatest guitar player, to say, I know how to make all this blend. And it's like you motion, okay, bring up this, a little bit more of this, that, and they're just waiting on you. And I've never failed to just laugh at myself and go, I'm surrounded by all this brilliance. But they look to me to say,
Hmm.
how do we make this practical? How do we make this profitable? How do we make this a business? Like our SEO team, our Amazon team, each one individually is superb,
Hmm.
but they just know their specialty. They don't really know how it fits into the overall concept of business. If I tell them we need to rank in the top 3 for last longer in bed, for, delay spray, they know exactly how to do it. But they really and truly don't know how that fits in to the algorithms, how that impacts business. And I take pride in the fact that I may not be the smartest in any area, but I know how to integrate everything and make it a symphony. Don't ask me to play an instrument, but I'll tell you right now,
There
I
you
can make
go.
music,
There you go. But I think that's so powerful. And I love, again, like you've been able to kind of do that. There's a book called Arrange where it talks a lot around the future of tomorrow, the ability to be able to solve problems. Actually leans on people that aren't necessarily specialists in those one things. They're actually able to see and and see the entire orchestra. They can see all the different instruments, but on a powerful level, like you kind of alluded to, you're able to put it all together, and then it makes beautiful music. A lot of times, there's so much kind of narrative, or has been at least, around specializing and leaning in. And while that's important, I think as there start to be less silos around different industries or even different parts of the business, it's also integrated. You need to be able to kind of pay attention to each of these aspects, each of those different instruments, and see how are they going to focus together so that it can be a beautiful presentation at the end of the day.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I know you touched a little bit on your secret sauce and what you're doing at Promescent. Is there anything else that we can find there, and you could tell us a little bit more on how you're making that impact for the clients that you're working with and customers?
Yeah, it's interesting because I took a lot of criticism when I first took over this company, and the company was doing 100 grand a year, and we'll finish this year at about 13.2 million. We're on
Nice,
target to do probably 18 million next year. So that's an
nice.
1,800%, increase in a
Yeah, it's huge.
not relatively short period of time. So I looked at all of our competition, and we have distinct advantages. All of our competition all fall into the category. They have these lidocaine, benzocaine based sprays that you put it on and it sits on the surface. It's a crystal and it doesn't permeate the skin. So we have a huge advantage. The guy that Dr. Ronald Gilbert, the founder of our company, was a genius. He, along with Dr. Tony Capomaccio, changed the crystalline structure of lidocaine from a solid to an oil aqueous. So it goes subdermal, it goes beneath your skin. So the man maintains a much higher degree of surface sensitivity and doesn't transfer to the female. So when I took over the company, the gentleman who'd been running it prior was literally doing infomercials and all these stupid little 30-second, and he had the product priced where all the garbage products were. So it literally it had an aura of we're just like everybody else, and we weren't making money. And it was like I looked at it and went, this is a chance to shine. This is a superior product, and the messaging is insane. It's absolutely backward of where it should be. So the first thing I did was come in and triple the price. And people go, "Oh my God, you're not selling now." I go, because people look at it and automatically they go, it's one of those garbage products. Okay. I am going to make this thing really and truly pristine. I am going to make it where people see the value in it. So then the next thing I did, instead of doing infomercials and that kind of nonsense, I went out and presented to physicians and doctors and got the proper patents in place. And then the doctors were like, where you been all my life? This is my biggest issue. Okay. If someone comes to see me for ED, I got Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, they run out and never see them again. If they have prostate issues, we take care of it. They have incontinence issues, they take care of it. If they have PE issues, I see them every year and they're desperate and they're freaking out and they're my most troublesome. But this stuff actually works. I go, yeah, here's the science behind it. Then we did clinical trials. So the doctors were even more on board. So we approached it from a different aspect. Okay, we want to have the medical credibility. We have a medical advisory board. And I started on our website, every other website that sells sexual wellness products, when you go to their website, all it is, buy, funnel, click here, buy. Then you go to leave, don't buy, half off, Our site was completely different. I don't know if you've seen our site. There's blogs and testimonials and clinical trials. And I had people criticize me and said, are you trying to educate people or sell them product? And my response was, I believe the more educated you become, the more intelligent you become, the more likely you are to buy our products. Well, there's one part where there's a study from the University of such and such, and it actually leaves your site. You never want someone to leave your site. I said, I'm confident they'll come back. The more research they do, we have value. And I said, not only that, the more that I educate people, they're going to buy the right product for the right reason, and they'll use it correctly. When you go to our website, you'll see Dr. Mohit Kira, Anthony Balchunas, these doctors telling you the proper way to use the product and how to dose it. So my goal isn't to sell one bottle to everyone and have 90% of them be unhappy and never come back. My goal is to slowly add people, have them buy the right product for the right reason, and then come back. Our repeat business is really, really strong. So that was the genesis. Now, that means you get started a little bit slower because you're not out trying to do everything. But I knew that it would be a base that would continue to grow and continue to evolve. And then in 2016, when we started becoming profitable, very solidly profitable, then it gave me the ability to do commercials. We have, and it's funny because we've been solid, we've been profitable, we've been very successful for the last 7 years. And so we started running these national TV commercials and stuff on CNN and MSNBC and ESPN, all these places. And I had people that had been, very well aware of what I was doing. And it wasn't until they saw a commercial, they were like, oh my God, you're so successful. I'm like, what? They go, I saw your commercial. I go, wait, you do realize anyone, as long as you pay, can have a commercial, okay? I got news for you. We've been successful and profitable. Ask my shareholders. They're getting dividend checks, okay, for the last 5 years. It wasn't the commercial that made us successful. That was an outgrowth. We were already successful. Right. But it's so funny how the average person sees a commercial and goes, oh my, I'm like, anyone can have a commercial. All you got to do is write a check to CNN. They'll run a commercial, Yeah. But it made me laugh. But it really strengthened the brand, because even if someone sees a commercial and they don't buy, when they walk down an aisle in Walmart, they're like, I saw that on TV. Here it is here. And unlike a semiconductor business that I had prior, where it was all about technology, we have these customer surveys that people fill out after about 20% of our customers fill it out. It was so interesting because how'd you find us? And I would literally see responses and it blew me away. Well, I heard you on the Adam Carolla podcast in 2014. Then I saw Sex with Emily. Emily Morris had mentioned it. Then Laura Berman did an article that I'm like, what? It took you 6 or 7. And it's that touch point where I guess after a while, it's like, I've seen it for so long, so many different places. This must work. I'm the type of
Exactly.
person, if I see something that interests me, I go do my research, I buy it.
Right.
Especially if someone says this makes you better in bed. I'm 66. You know, I'm not going to be firing bullets for too much longer. I'm not going to take 6 years. Okay. That's like a third of the rest of my life, hopefully. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I go out and do my research. I'm like, I'm going to buy this. But it made me laugh when I see people that literally saw it 6 or 7 times. And then it's interesting. Okay, what made you finally pull the trigger? You know, and I'm very interactive. I watch all of our customer surveys. I talk to a lot of our customers. I've been out to lunch with them. You know, like I'm going to be in Southern Cal. I'd really like to meet you. You've been a long-term users because you got to understand, how do people find us? What gives them the
Mhm.
confidence so you do more of it? You know, and I want to know, what were your reservations prior to pulling the trigger? What almost caused you not to buy us, so that I can make sure we address those concerns in our advertising, you know? So it's a completely different mindset with a consumer product as opposed to a semiconductor engineering business. But it's been intriguing because it gave me something I could relate to. Even though I had a successful semiconductor engineering business, it wasn't fun. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I
Right.
was on a podcast having people ask me about business and sex and stuff. I do that for free. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. You know what I mean? It's fun. But, you know,
Yeah.
discussing integrated circuits and the next generation, there's only about 4 people in the world that aren't in that industry that would even be interested in talking about it. And I remember my mom and dad, people go, "What does your son do?" They go, "I really don't know, but he does it well. I've been to his house." You know what I mean? Like, it's something to do with some kind of computer thing. You know what I mean? They had no idea what I did, but they saw the fruits of my labor and they were like
Right.
proud. I bought them a new house and redid their house and everything. They were like, "I don't know what he does, but he's good at it." You know what I mean? And
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I
We
had
have a
to
house.
laugh. But
Yeah.
everyone relates to a consumer product that they see on TV, that they know what it does. You know, no one outside the industry goes, "Okay, an integrated circuit, how big is a micron? What are these circuits doing?" But everyone knows sex, you know,
Right.
whether they're doing it with someone else or by themselves. Everyone relates to having an orgasm. It's a pleasurable feeling. So it's really helped make the back half of my life very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I almost wonder, would you consider this to be like what I call a CEO hack, which can be like an Apple book or even a habit that you have that makes you more effective and efficient? I almost wonder if your ability, like you mentioned, having the pulse of how to I won't say be more valuable because I think the company was probably valuable. It just wasn't showcased in the right way. Do you feel like your relatability, being able to get out there and have those conversations, listen, ask the right question, do you feel like that's part of the hack that has made you more effective and efficient?
With unquestionably, think about this. Like I said, initially, now think about this for a second. This company's doing 100 grand a year. We're on pace to do 18 million next year. The only
Mhm.
difference is me. Okay. I'm not that smart. Okay. But I'm sly and I know
Mhm.
how to position things. This company, this product, the exact same product was doing 100K that will next year do 18 million. I'm no genius. I didn't invent something new. I just positioned it correctly. I just went, we are doing what was happening prior to me was a case study in how not to run a business. Okay.
Mhm.
Let's make sure that all the unsuccessful products that are already out there, that we mimic them, and let's
Yeah.
price it and let's put it in a position that where it will lead people to believe it's similar. So I wanted to make our company and our product elegant because it is, and it's a cut above. So the marketing and the presentation had to fit the actual product. I mean, if anything, people were accused of taking a garbage product and trying to make it elegant. We had an elegant product and we were making it look like garbage. I was like, and so when
Right.
people go, "You're a genius," I'm like, "No, I'm the tallest midget." You know what I mean? Like, this company was so poorly managed prior to me taking it over. All I had to do was bring really sound fundamental business principles and put them in place. And I think it's my nature that I was a big brother for 7 years before my son was born. I love
Mhm.
mentor. I love helping people. I'm a good communicator, you know? And it started to resonate because we had a lot of our doctors that would go on podcasts and stuff, and they were decent returns, but it was a problem because a lot of doctors are so impressed with themselves. If someone asks you a question, how do you apply the product? Well, you apply it to the frenulum, and the listener's like, what the hell's a frenulum? They're doing a Google search, right? Oh, the
Right, right.
frenulum is the underside of the head of the penis, right? And
Uh-huh.
then they come back and they've missed the last 2 minutes of what he was saying, then the segment's over. So when I do a podcast, I'm not intelligent enough to talk above anyone, right? So someone says to me, how do you apply it? I go, you put it on the underside of the head of your penis, which is the frenulum, and people are like, oh. And so people will
I got one of those.
actually, on those customer surveys, they'll say, I heard your CAO. He's a regular dude. I heard your CEO. I relate to that guy, And Jane Wells, I don't know if you know Jane Wells from CNBC. She did a bunch of stories on it. She's their financial reporter. And so she was doing a podcast with me. She kind of really took a liking to our company, the whole story and everything. And so she says to me, I'm on this podcast. And she goes, have you ever used your product? And I said, would a winemaker not drink his own wine? I said, would a cabinet maker have someone else's cabinets in his kitchen? She's like, oh my God. I said, if you're going to ask me a question, I said, I don't use it all the time. I said, but there are times that, we don't have to get up early tomorrow. We got a lot going on. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, let's have a marathon session this evening. Because one of the beauties of our product is it works really well for people who have clinical premature ejaculation. But one of the beauties, and this tends back to, like I said, being a CEO and reading your product and your audience. But just like Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, they don't sell $7 billion a year in product because all these people have ED. There are so many men that go, I'm good. I want to be great. I'm great. I want to be turbocharged. So one thing that through my early research and my studies from talking to physicians, it's the most amazing thing. There's a term for it in the medical community. It's called the arousal gap. We're not talking about PE. Let's talk about the average healthy male. The average healthy male lasts about 5 minutes and 42 seconds of penetration and thrusting before climaxing. The average female takes 18 minutes of penetration and thrusting to achieve orgasm. So there's this automatic disparity, even in healthy couples. So I said, we're going to attack that. We want people to know, and sometimes we've had men that literally love our product, are repeat users, and I'll email them. We start talking, start chatting. I go, hey, give me a call. Really? And I go, yeah, here's my number. I want to find out. We start talking, and the guy will say, I didn't even think I needed your product. I lasted long enough for my girlfriend and my wife, or both in some cases, to orgasm. You know what I mean? And it was, but the last 2 minutes I was walking on eggshells. The little guy on my shoulder was like, not yet, not yet. Oh my God, be careful. Blah, blah, blah. And I used your product. And then it went from, oh my God, I hope I last long enough to, do I want to give her 2 orgasms or 3 before we're done here? And I go, that's exactly the feeling. You know what I mean? That you're in a position that it takes that variable, the anxiety, out of the equation. And I tell people, anxiety and intimacy are 2 completely separate emotions. They should never intersect. Anxiety is the antithesis of intimacy. You don't want that in there because it destroys intimacy. And you being from Virginia, you can relate to this. I don't know if you're a football fan, but someone said to me, what was your experience like when you first started using Promescent? I said, well, it's my experience and a lot of our users that as a man, the longer it takes to climax, the more intense the climax. And I said, the first time I used Promescent, Ron had given me a sample and I looked at the direction and said 3 to 10 sprays. And I said, okay, I'll go in the middle. So I used like 6, but I didn't realize that was if you have severe PE, and I didn't. So it was like this marathon session, like 50 minutes. And my girlfriend at the time was like tapping out like it was an MMA match. Get off of me. Okay, wait, I did all this work. I have to finish. And someone said, well, when you finally finish, what did it feel like? I said, that's the first time I clearly understood the Ray Lewis pregame dance. Remember when Ray Lewis comes out? They're like, what? I said, my body was quaking. I was shaking. You know what I mean? I swear to God, the people I was with fell on the ground laughing. You know what I mean? I said, I have a much better appreciation for Ray's pregame celebrate where he comes out and he grabs the turf and he's, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
We've had people tell us that I don't suffer from PE, but I have a better experience with your product. And there's nothing more gratifying than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely could understand. I remember that commercial very what Ray did, and that could definitely
Yeah.
be a commercial at the very
Yeah, and
least.
I remember when I first saw it, I'm like, "What is that?" Then I was like, "Oh, I know what that is now." You
Nah,
know
I
what I
know what
mean?
it is. There you go.
Yeah,
That's the sign of excellence. But I love I often say like we forget about the human aspect of business, and what I hear more than anything else, and I don't know if this is part of your CEO nugget because I it sounds like the doctors the previous person that was in charge of the company, they maybe knew a little bit more around the clinical studies and all those things. But I feel like you have a really strong sense on the human aspect of the product of what you're doing. And I think so many times we can skip past that, we forget about that. But do you feel like that's like a piece of advice or word of wisdom you would give to other entrepreneurs and business owners is to really understand not just it's important to understand what your product can do and not do as you all have on your site, but it's even more important to, I think, understand the transformation, the human element, that part that it sounds like you have brought to everything that you're doing.
that is the key to our success. We understand the people that use our product. We understand why they're using it. We understand what keeps them from maybe buying it. So we try to, lower those barriers. We also really are in touch with what it does for someone, the benefits, the features, and we try to focus on that. If all you do is look at statistics and studies, and I didn't dig deeper and pull back the covers and go, whoa, 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 this isn't just a product for people who have PE. There's a recreational component to this that improves even people without PE. Let me tell you something, over 50% of our business now is people who don't have PE, people who
Mhm.
literally just want better intimacy. I tell people this all the time. Michael Jordan, we talked about, was the best basketball player arguably ever. Tiger
Yeah.
Woods, best golfer ever. He or whatever. If you're talking about hockey, Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky. If you
Mhm.
said to Michael Jordan, you average 87.8 shooting free throws, would you like to average 87.9? His first response would be, I want every edge that I can get.
Yep.
Yeah. If you would say to Wayne Gretzky, you scored 91 goals in your best year, how about scoring 92? The average, oh, what's the difference? He'd go, I want to score 92, maybe 93.
You're
If
right.
you would say to Tiger Woods, you average 19.7 putts per 18 holes, how about 19.6? Absolutely. I want every edge.
Right.
I tell this story because it makes me laugh. And this shows you about how fragile the male ego is and how we have to be very careful how we present this. So we had changed our message initially. If you're suffering from PE and you don't feel this, and this, then right away it was almost like a negative. While you're suffering, you have this affliction. We went, you're a great lover, you can be a better
Mhm.
lover, that kind of a thing. Because the thing that really struck me is Johnny Sins was AVN's male porn star of the year in 2020, 2021. He
Mhm.
lives here in Las Vegas. I live in Summerlin, in the hills outside of Las Vegas. And we had made contact with him. He's like, I love your products. I'm like, what? Oh, you guys are right. And so he became a spokesperson for us,
Mhm.
and it was so amazing to me. This guy is arguably, one of the best lovers in the world. I mean, he's the
Mhm.
AVN's male porn star of the year, years running. And he says what you see in porn is not exactly accurate. Okay.
Mhm.
Even porn stars need the little boost here and there. And that to me was like so crazy because I've been in instances. This is a true story. I was at a barbecue in my neighborhood when I first moved in
Mhm.
here. And it was really nice. It was like a block party. They had food trucks and band and blah, blah, blah. So one of my neighbors comes up and they go, oh, you're the guy who lives at 82 Sunglow. I go, yeah. What do you do for a living? It's a beautiful home. I said, well, I made most of my money because this was like 6 years ago in the semiconductor industry. I said, but now I'm the CEO of a small medical company. And they go, really? What's the name of the company? I said, Absorption Pharmaceuticals. And the guy goes, never heard of it. I go, well, we're a small company. We're growing. He goes, what's your product? I said, well, our primary product is a delay product for premature ejaculation. So he looks at me, he puffs out his chest. He's like, it's the last thing we need in this relationship. Well, excuse me, Ron Jeremy. Okay, no problem, right? So they were carving tri-tip, and he goes over to get some food. His wife leans over me and goes, we could use a little help in that area. Do you have any bread? I was like, what? I said, I'll leave some in your mailbox. You know what I mean? And
Right.
how ironic is it that it just shows the mentality? That's why I really had to work on tailoring our message that AVN's Male Porn Star of the Year is very much in touch with the fact that, hey, every once in a while you need a little boost, whatever. But the accountant that lives across the street from me is like, oh no, I'm the best lover in the world. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, get out of here, okay? And it would be like some hack that can't golf go, I'm perfect. I don't need any. But Tiger
Right.
Woods would say, yeah, if I can take a
Get
tenth
that
of a
edge.
stroke off. So I started studying this mentality, and I said to myself, we can never say you need help. You're deficient. What we had to say was, you're fantastic, but let's make you super fantastic. You're already super fantastic. Let's make you. So it's very clearly in the messaging that make yourself a better lover. You're already a good one, because the male ego is very fragile. And if all of a sudden you're saying you're less than, I'm not touching that product, I'm not less than, you literally have to play. So I tell all my female friends, I said, man, I used to think before I took this job, someone say, what's the most fragile substance on earth? I go, one of those Fabergé eggs that cost, $40,000 made out of the finest crystal. I said, oh, not now. Male ego, that's the most fragile substance on earth. If you're a woman, don't ever say anything that would freak out your man. And I've been on podcasts and Sirius XM radio stations where they have call-in, and 50% of the people that call in are women. Because if a man has PE, think about this for a second, and we had to start marketing more towards women too. So if a man has PE, he still ejaculates and has an orgasm. It's the woman who is as affected, if not more pronounced. So the women call in all the time, and they have the same question. If a woman calls in, I know what the question is going to be. We need this. How do I bring it up without hurting my man's feelings? I swear to God. So I tell them, I have this tailored response. I say, if you say, you're not lasting long enough, you're not satisfying me, right away he's going to get defensive. He's not going to want to hear about it. What you do is you create a 50 Shades of Gray night. Get a feather duster, a riding crop, a blindfold and everything, and then just throw the promescent in there with it. So don't focus on that. Say it's our fantasy night. And I say, once you give him that control, you'll never have to suggest he use it again. Think about it. If you really, really think, and you go over another couple's house, you're going to be watching TV for the, who's got the remote? It's the dude. He's got the remote. I'm in control here, seeing what we watch. I have this saying that I tell people, and they laugh, but they go, you're onto something there. If you see a couple come driving down the street and the woman's driving and the dude's on the passenger side, first thing goes through my mind, he must got a DUI. You know what I mean? He can't drive. He has a license. Guys want to be in control. So that's why I tell women, give him that control, okay, where he no longer has to worry, oh my God, not yet, not yet, not yet. And you start to get all anxious. You never have to give. Guys love the feeling of control. So just suggest it. Don't try to force it. Just go, hey, I'll put on the mask. You put on the Zorro outfit. You know what I mean? Like here's a whip and a leather, whatever. And then that way it's not focusing on, oh, you're deficient in this area. It's just I want this fantasy night to last. Oh, okay, great. And then he's going to go, oh, I love this feeling, Right. So we've tailored our marketing, and we've really got in touch with what the emotions are with this product, and staying away from anything that triggers a negative response, and really reinforcing the positive. You're a great lover. This is fantastic. Those types of things. So that's been very critical to our success.
Yeah, that's huge. I appreciate you breaking that down and sharing that and how impactful that is. I think so many times we can, we can lose the forest for the trees. We can looking at the tree when we're missing the entire forest. So I love that you're able to connect those gaps, because at the end of the day, that helps you make more of an impact at the end of the day. So what would you consider to be your answer to my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO? Our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Jeff, what does being a CEO mean to you?
To me, being a CEO to me is keeping your eyes and ears open. Don't tell your customers, don't preach, don't think that you know more than they do. Listen, okay? Take the feedback, solicit it, go out, study it, give people what they want. There's so many documented cases of where someone thought they knew more than their consumer knew and tried to stuff something down their throat, and they found out the consumer is going to buy what they want to buy. The consumer is smarter than you about how they're going to spend their money. And even if you're smarter than them, but you can't get them to buy your product, you're still a failure. So listen, take the time. Like I said, check your ego at the door. My main goal is to listen. People had said to me when we developed, we have female arousal gel and we have ED products and everything. Oh my God, you're a genius. You went it. I said, no, I listen to my customers. I've had people say to me, I was only lasting 30 seconds. Now I'm lasting 10, 12, 20 minutes. I never need to loop. I need some loop. Develop a loop. Okay, great. Oh, that was genius. They told me I'm not a genius. I listen to my customers. Then it was like, these products work so well, but I have a little bit of an ED issue. Okay, great. We went, developed some ED products. Then it was like, I need more energy. I need more of this. I need more libido. We developed our VitaFlux. So our products expansions, and they've all been very successful, have come directly from listening to our customers. And that's the key. So to me, being a CEO is not thinking you're smarter than anyone, is literally saying they're smarter than me. They know what they want. Let me listen to them and let me go back and give them what it is they want. We have a mantra that we will never, ever break. And someone says to me, wow, you've introduced 6 products over the last 2 years and they're all successful. I said, yeah. How many products do you think you'll introduce over the next 2 years? I said, somewhere between 0 and 20. They're like, what? Don't you have this one, this one? I said, we have a mantra. We don't even have a separate advertising budget. Our people are sexually active. So we introduce a new product. All we do is send out emails and we feature on our site. It immediately takes off. But here's the thing we absolutely will never, ever waver from. For us to introduce a product, it has to be as good or better than everything else in that space. Because when we first introduced our second, third, fourth products, we sent out emails to the first 100 people to buy it. And we were like, oh, what gave you the confidence to buy vibrators from us? Because that's not, and they go, if it's on this site, we knew it was top quality. We knew you'd stand behind it 100%. Right there, I'm like, they're telling me something. We trust you. We like you. You bring value. We have to continue in that vein. And it's been that way ever since. So when someone says to me, how many products? I said between 0 and 6 or between 0 and 8. If I find 6 or 8 that are as good, if not better than everything else in that space, we'll introduce every single one of them. If I find 0, it'll be 0. We've had people that have standalone companies that don't know how to market come to us. Oh, this is a need, and we evaluate the product. Go, sorry, it's just not that good. Well, there's a big market for it, so you can still sell some. I said, you don't understand. We're not about just because there's a lot of interest selling products that people are going to be disappointed in. I take pride in the fact that people appreciate, love our products, recommend it to their friends. I don't care how much money we can make over the next year. If we lose the ability of people to have confidence, if it's on this site, it works, and you stand behind it, then the next time we introduce a product, the last one I bought from them wasn't really up to snuff. So as long as I am the CEO of this company, that will never change. My mantra is every single product on that site is either superior or as good as every other product in that particular space.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I appreciate you sharing that so much. And it kind of made me think of, a lot of people say your brand is ultimately a promise. And I think once you have that promise and you keep that promise, and you do that by not just obviously creating whatever product or service you have, but also in terms of listening, as you said so well, and paying attention to what people are actually looking for and providing that for them, that's when you really, I guess, get that really sweet spot where you're able to make, a huge impact for people and organizations. So absolutely appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best people can get hold of you, find out about all the awesome things you and team are working on.
Yeah, I absolutely make myself available. I had an exchange yesterday with someone who heard me on a podcast, and I gave out my email address. My email address is jeff.abraham, ABRAHAM, at promescent.com. I literally answer every email that I get. And I had a guy that emailed me yesterday. I heard you on this podcast. This isn't really you, is it? And I emailed back. Yeah, it is. And he's like, what? He goes, I can't believe you answered me. I go, why would I give it out and not answer you? I go, that would be, and we start talking, and he lives in Canada. He's like, I use this product, I use that one. I said, give me a call. I'd like to find out a little more insight, how you found us. I had like a half-hour conversation with him, and I learned something each and every time I talk to him. How did you find us? How do you like the products? Which ones have you tried? Which ones haven't you tried? The ones you haven't tried, what is your reservation? That it's a learning experience. I welcome people to call or email, and you have my word. I respond to every single email. I go down the list. Some cases I'll respond, say this question would be more appropriately asked by one of our research people, but here's what I know. I'm CCing, Ryan Kellner on this email, blah, blah, blah. But every single email will be responded to. And number one, I want them to learn. But number two, I learn. I learn
Mhm.
how you found us, what kind of satisfaction you have, more about how to position our products. One of my questions, what else would you like to see us carry? You know what I mean? What else are you buying elsewhere? Because we have people go, I buy this, this, and this here. I got to go somewhere else to buy this. Why don't you develop this? I'd like to learn about the customer experience. How do you view us, compared to our competition? How does this work? How does that work? So my message is I am here for you. You pay our freight. The reason that we're successful, we pay dividends. The reason we're growing is because of you, the customer. The emphasis will always be on your satisfaction and your ability to get value out of what it is we do.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate that, Jeff. We're going to have the links and information as well in the show notes, your email, so that everybody can follow up with you. But I truly appreciate you hopping on and speaking to us about all the awesome things you've been able to do. Actually, what came up for me was there's a quote that I think they say Henry Ford had, but I don't think he actually said it, where he said, if I would have asked everybody what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. But I think most people think that that means don't listen to your clients. But I think sometimes that's listening to your clients and understanding what they're saying or what they need to be created without knowing how to say what they want to have be created. So
Well, think about
everything
that for
you've been
a
able
second.
to do.
You're 100% right, because they
Yeah.
didn't understand there would be an automobile. So when they said a faster
Right.
horse, but he had the knowledge, wait, I'm working on something that's much faster than a horse. And if you think
Right.
about it, a car is a much faster horse. But to
Yeah.
a person who didn't understand that there could even be a car, and the only thing they knew, the only transportation they knew was a horse, they wanted a faster horse. But it took him with the vision to go, this is a iron horse and it's a lot
Right.
faster. This is a metal horse, So you're
Yeah.
right. He didn't necessarily make a faster horse. He went 11 steps beyond it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And had a car, but he was in touch, knowing that they needed something faster, more reliable, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so everything you've been able to do, obviously, and be able to communicate that is huge. So I appreciate you for reminding us how important that is, how important it is to be in touch with the human aspect of business. And of course, appreciate your time. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
No, I can't thank you enough. I had listened to some of the episodes. I was like, this is a great venue for us. This is the kind of venue we appreciate, and I can't thank you enough for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you.